So in Unit 3, Activity 3, you are going to be writing your own news report. So what I wanted to do is make sure that you know where to find all the various pieces. This video is going to cover three things. One, knowing the parts of the news stories. We're going to review Unit 3, Activity 1. Then we're going to look at what your final product could look like, and I'll include a copy of the exemplar in both content and in the announcements. And last but not least, I'll go through all the various organizers that are provided for you in the content. So let's start with what you're being asked to do. You're going to write a news report. And so what you are given is a headline, a picture of inspiration, and they've even given you some facts, the who, what, where, when, why, how. So what our job is to do is to use these parts right here and to write an entire news story. It is creative and inventive, so it doesn't necessarily have to follow a particular line of thinking. It's totally up to you, and you're going to come up with the details. So how do we go from here to a completed story? So let's go back here for a second. What we need to do first, before we get to anything writing, is that we need to go to Unit 3, Activity 1. There was an activity in there in which we reviewed all the different parts of what is included in a news story in this example. So we need to have a headline, that's the title of the news story, a photograph, which we know we do, a byline, which is this part right here, who is the reporter, who they're reporting for, and when this story takes place. That's the date line. We need a caption for the photograph. And then we come down here, we need a place line. We need a lead, which is the 5 W's and an H. And we need the body of the rest of the story. We need a quote. That's why we were working on quotes last week. And those are the parts of a news story. So Unit 3, Activity 1, in case you're wondering, because we need to include these components in there, if you're wondering what they are, that's where they are. Okay, so now we know the different parts that we need to include. If we look at what we need to include, all of those things need to be there. So that's why it's important to review. But let's see what the final product looks like. All right, we have a headline. We have a byline, we have all the different parts, we have a caption and a picture. This was my in-person class actually wrote this, and I'm a teacher at Prince Edward Collegiate Institute, so we used our area. This was just a random photo, but it kind of looks like our school in some parts. So what we did is we used the organizers in which to come up with the whole story. So this, written from beginning to end, is given that they had some of the details and they wrote this entire story. The key part of what we worked on was quotations and the idea of interviewing somebody and what they would say about the situation. So this is a story that a student wrote that has all the components. So how did we get from the assignment beginning to the end? So we knew the parts of the story, we knew what the final product should look like, and now here's the key part. Let's go to the assignment, and we're going to make sure that we understand what the organizers are going to do to help us. Okay, so first of all, here are some exemplars about some of the starting details. And for this particular story, this student filled out most of it, and there was a few sort of blank spaces just because they had written a different part, but this was the beginning of it. And then I included in here what the final product should look like. And it's just written in a Google Doc. So how did we get there? The first one we're going to do is we're going to look at the lead details and how to combine them. So I've actually written it for you so that you can use this or you can change it however you would like. But what a reporter does is they take all of the details, the 5 W's, and then they combine it into what's called the lead. Sometimes this is one big long sentence. Because there was a lot of details here, I included it as 2 to 3 sentences. So you're welcome to use this lead or write your own. Okay, so that's what this particular organizer was showing you. Feel free to use that or create your own. Okay, so we're going to need to brainstorm some additional details because these ones were given to us. So we're going to mainly use this organizer right here. So what I did is I took that same organizer that my students used for this, right, where they had this particular organizer. I took this same organizer, but I put our details. So I put our picture. You're going to need to create a title or a headline. I've put the lead in there. If you would like to change it, you totally can. I've excluded the why and how because those go in the next little sort of sentence. Not only what happened, but why and how, what led up to it or what was going on. Here's one of the biggest challenges that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to think about when it comes to this ice storm, who would be involved. So I would think about police. I would think about, I think it said residents, travelers, and business owners were impacted or stranded. So I would think that I would want to investigate police because they would have had some problems helping people. I would think that I would want to interview Hydro One workers. So that's in Ontario, Hydro One, because if there's no power because of an ice storm, that they would be involved. So I might interview them. And let's be honest, we're not actually interviewing anyone. We're making up everything. So I might also think about those people that were stranded. Maybe there was somebody that you found that had to stay in a hotel because they were traveling from Belleville to Toronto or wherever it was, Barrie. So they were traveling to Barrie from Toronto or Belleville and they got stranded. And so they had to stay there. They couldn't make it home. And you could ask them a question about what their experience was. And then the key part is, what did they say? So you want to know a name and the reason that you're interviewing them because they are a Hydro One worker. So Joe Pete, Hydro One worker, I asked him, what have the problems that you encountered? What are the problems that you encountered? And he would say, we've been working long and hard hours. We want to make sure that everyone has hydro. It's been really challenging for these reasons, right? So this is one of the key parts that you need to think about. Who is it going to be that you interview? What's their name? What job do they have? Or what role do they have in this? And then what would you ask them? What would they say? Long story short, you need to also think of next steps. So Hydro One workers are working to restore power. What's going to happen next in the next couple of days? The situation as it stands now. Even you could refer to some of your travelers or whoever it is that you wanted to interview. Those are lots of considerations. So let's go through that again. You've got exemplars so that you know what you should include or sort of what it reads like. And this organizer right here is going to be your key one to help you organize some of those key details. And then you're going to put those into a whole story that includes all of these. Remember that you have an exemplar to look at to see how that reads or what those parts are. You're going to hand in your organizer and your written story. Okay, so this has a lot of resources. There's a lot of blue links there, but they're all there to help you and support you in writing this story. Reach out by email if you have any questions.